The following equipment is required to put in all tubular anodes. First of all, the cable cut to the required length. We have a rubber bung, a soft rubber bung with a central hole, which is positioned over the cable. The solid rubber bung is required after the connector is fitted into the central part of the anode in the resonant process. We have the cable lug, which is positioned to the end of the cable. We have the electrical connector. We have the crimping tool, where the cable lug is crimped to the cable. We have two fabricated bars for the required length. We have sockets at each end of the bars. This enables that the head of the bolt goes in the small socket, and at the opposite end the tapered nut goes in the slightly larger socket, allowing the connector to be tightened in the central part of the tube. And we now have the torch, where we check the inside of the bore when the electrical connection has taken place, and also to make sure the rubber bung is in the correct position before resting. The cable is cut to the required length, and the resistance of the cable is checked. We now pass the 10 amp current through the cable to check on the resistance, shown 0.12 milliohms. Position the soft rubber bung with the central hole over the cable, ready to insert to the top part of the anode tube after resonance. We now position cable lug onto the end of the bare cable, ready for crimping. Now position cable into the jaws of the crimping tool and crimp the cable lug to the cable. Cable lug is checked for tightness. We now take the electrical connector and remove the tapered nut. We then remove the finned part of the connector. Remove one washer. Then we insert the bolt through the cable lug. Put the washer back on. Put the fin part of the connector up against the washer. And we then position the tapered nut up against the finned part of the connector. The connector is now fastened to the cable and is ready for inserting into the tube. It's 29.35, that weight is fine. The main weight is 28.6 kilos, plus or minus 5%. We now know the electrical connector is center of the tube. Operator 2 now positions the large socket end onto the tapered nut part of the connector. Torch is used to assist in this operation. We now tighten the connector by turning clockwise. Connector is now fully tight. We now know the electrical connector has been expanded to the central part of the inside bore, so we do get a very, very good electrical connection. We now check the resistance of the joint made by the electrical connector by placing clamps on the end of the cable. Clamp on the end of the tube to obtain a flow of current. We now take the second electrical cable from the machine and place it on the center of the tube beside the connector to check the resistance. We're checking the resistance by passing a 10 amp current through the tube and checking the resistance in milliohms, which is 0.1 to 0.13 approx, which shows it's a very, very good joint. We now insert the dense sponge solid rubber disc to the inside of the bore. With a specially made tool, we now move the solid rubber disc up the bore to within 4 inches from the end of the connector shown by the pre-marked bar. Operator 1 now shines torch down the centre part of the tube to check that there's no light showing through the rubber bore. We position the cable to the top part of the tube. That is where we pour the resin into, 4 inches either side of the connector. After resin, rubber disc is positioned to the end of the tube, keeping the cable central.